Good evening and welcome to our news update. This week has been marked by several significant developments, primarily centered around US President Donald Trump, ranging from a wide-ranging, at times perplexing interview to an ambitious plan for a historic building and reactions to a golden statue in his honor. Beginning with an interview given by US President Trump to the American program Full Measure on Sunday, May 10th. During the conversation, President Trump made several notable claims, including his assertion that he would, at some point, obtain Iran's enriched uranium, along with everything we want. The president also spoke about childhood vaccinations, stating, "I see these beautiful little babies and they get a big vessel, a big glass full of something pumped into their bodies. I believe that is a very negative thing." He suggested that he would prefer to see much smaller injections, even if it meant going to the doctor 4 times, believing it would lead to much better results with autism. It remains unclear what President Trump was specifically referring to, as a connection between vaccinations and autism diagnoses has not been scientifically proven, though it is a recurring talking point among vaccination opponents. Furthermore, in the same interview, the US president incorrectly claimed to have ended 8 wars and presided over the best economy ever. When questioned about when he would fulfill his announced plan with Elon Musk to visit Fort Knox and inspect its gold reserves, President Trump appeared unable to recall the matter, responding to the query with, "What are you speaking about?" Moving to a domestic controversy, US President Donald Trump is facing sharp criticism for his plan to paint the historic Eisenhower Executive Office building located next to the White House white. Preservationists, historians, and architects are voicing strong opposition. Last year, President Trump had already described the building's gray granite facade as a really bad color, declaring, "Gray is for funerals." The administration argues that painting the building white would help it optically better match the White House. The project, according to the Trump administration, could cost at least $7.5 million. Plans involve either painting only parts of the facade white or covering the entire building. However, critics warn that paint applied to granite could trap moisture, potentially causing permanent damage. Several landmark and architectural associations describe the proposed change as irreversible for a national landmark. A lawsuit against the project is already pending. The National Capital Planning Commission, an important federal agency, has now requested additional information on the planned work and has postponed a decision. They have asked for more precise details on the type of paint to be used, potential long-term damage, and alternatives such as cleaning or new lighting. In international news, following the United States' decision to withdraw its plan to station Tomahawk missiles in Germany, the German federal government is reportedly seeking to purchase these cruise missiles from the US. Germany hopes to persuade the US government to sell the weapons along with the associated ground-based Typhoon missile launcher system, according to a report by the Financial Times on Sunday, May 10th, citing insiders. Defense Minister Boris Pistorius is planning a trip to Washington to advocate for the purchase of these long-range systems. Germany had submitted a request to buy the Typhoon system last July, but the United States has not yet responded. However, the report states that a US visit by Minister Pistorius depends on whether he can arrange a meeting with his US counterpart, Pete Hegseth. This is considered uncertain given the worsened relations between US President Donald Trump and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, particularly in the context of the Iran war, according to the newspaper. Statements from the White House, the US Department of Defense, and the German Federal Ministry of Defense were not immediately available. On the political front, Democratic Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, known as AOC, has openly addressed speculation about a potential presidential candidacy in 2028. At an event in Chicago, the Democratic representative stated that her political ambition is not focused on a title or a specific office. Instead, she described it as a response to the current political conditions in the country. She rejected the idea that her goals are primarily career-oriented, explaining that she bases her decisions on the current political situation, asking herself daily which choice could move the country faster and stronger towards her political visions. However, she did not make a concrete statement regarding a possible presidential candidacy in 2028. Finally, evangelical pastor Mark Burns has defended his inauguration ceremony for a nearly 5-meter tall golden statue of US President Donald Trump, which had drawn criticism. On the online service X, Burns stated he was stunned by how quickly some people associated the statue, erected on President Trump's golf course in Florida, with a golden calf or idolatry. He clarified, "Let me be very clear. This is not a golden calf. We worship the Lord Jesus Christ and only Him alone." He emphasized that honor is not worship, respect is not idolatry. The Old Testament describes how the Israelites created a calf of gold and worshipped it as a replacement god during Moses' absence, incurring God's wrath. The Ten Commandments explicitly forbid idolatry. Burns, an ally of the 79-year-old president, led the statue's inauguration ceremony on Wednesday. The statue depicts President Trump with a raised fist, a famous gesture captured in a photo following an attack on him in July 2024. What's your take on President Trump's controversial comments and plans? Share your view in the comments. Do you think this will matter in the next news cycle? This video was generated using artificial intelligence systems.